faster and faster around it. Shaking her head from the dizziness of watching the lights going around, she gently stretched her hand out to touch what should have been solid concrete where the wall of the lab should have been. She felt a slight tingling as her hand passed through the doorway, but nothing that felt dangerous or disturbing. Tink pulled her hand back and glanced up toward where the console was with a frown.
"Rita, what do you make of this?"
Tink asked in a slightly husky voice.
"I'm not sure, dear, but I don't think it would hurt you. Why don't you take a look and see what it is?"
Rita replied, sounding almost eager.
Take a look? Was Rita nuts? Could a computer be nuts? Was Tink going nuts?
Hooray, now all she was doing was thinking about nuts.
"What do the readings say?"
Tink asked curiously.
"You were able to pull over 12.8695 amps out of the generator. What a wonderful increase, dear. It seems to be just what Cosmos needed to get his project running,"
Rita said, sounding excited.
"Well, maybe you should power it down now that we know it worked. I'm not sure what Cosmos is doing, but if he can create a room that wasn't there before, maybe I don't want to mess with it,"
Tink said, starting to turn around. Tink hadn't taken more than a step when she heard something coming from the other side of the doorway.
"What was that? Rita, did you pick up anything?"
Turning back toward the doorway, Tink looked closer. A tall, dark-haired man was fighting with... Tink shook her head again.
What the hell is that?"
Tink moved closer as the man raised his sword.
Holy crap, the guy had a huge sword.
The man looked like he was fighting a big iguana. The other creature was hissing, its tongue moving in and out as it swung what looked like a double-edged sword toward the tall, dark-haired man. The dark-haired man moved backward, trying to stay out of the iguana dude's reach. He was holding his right arm close to his body like he was hurt, and he was dragging his left leg. Tink glanced down at it as he moved by, and saw blood flowing from a deep gash that had to hurt like hell. As he moved by, Tink saw the dark-haired man's face for the first time. The man's features caused Tink to gasp. He looked more like a kid, not more than 16 or 17. The iguana dude raised his double-edged sword over his head and struck a particularly brutal blow on the sword arm of the dark-haired boy. The power of the blow caused the boy to fall backward, where he lay sprawled on the floor of the hallway. The iguana dude roared with triumph and raised his sword over his head in order to deal a death blow. Derek knew his time had come. He knew death would come quickly now. When their ship was attacked, he gripped his battlesword, ready to defend his shipmates and his brothers. A feeling of regret surged through him as he thought of his parents' and brothers' reactions to his death. He was only 17 planet cycles old, and had begged and pestered his father and older brothers to let him join them on this trade mission to a nearby star system. Everything was fine until they'd received a distress call from a starship 2 clicks ago. They were the closest ship and offered to help. The signals coming from the ship identified it as a Class 5 passenger starship on course to Caldara 4 to drop off its passengers. The distress signal also identified multiple system failures, including environmental. Responding to the distress signal, they encountered the Jongans instead. The Jongans had obviously hijacked the starship. They used it as a decoy in an effort to get unsuspecting ships to come to its rescue. They were a fierce species that preyed on anything that moved, and were known for their brutal treatment not only of each other, but of any species they encountered. They were not picky about who or what they ate. They were known to even sacrifice members of their own crew to fulfill their grisly appetites. Derek was a member of the Prime, a proud warrior people who lived in a galaxy that had several habitable planets. There were 3 planets in the Prime system that supplied a wide variety of materials the Prime used for trading with other nearby